Hey guys, welcome back to another Let's Draw, and today we're going to be making these rainbow drawings using markers and water, so we get this watercolor effect without actually having to use watercolor paint. So I'm going to show you some of the supplies you need for this one. If you don't have markers at home, you're not going to be able to do the watercolor effect, but you can still follow along with the drawing using markers or color pencils. But for this one, for all the things that I used, you will need markers, any kind work. You will need a paintbrush. If you don't have a paintbrush, you could use a Q-tip, maybe an old toothbrush. You could even use your finger or a piece of string. Of course, if you're going to use those things, ask for permission first. So paintbrush or something like it. Something to hold water in. Use a cup. I'm using this tray. It's a good idea to have a paper that you can put underneath because this will make a little bit of a mess. So make sure you have something underneath so you don't make a mess on the table. And you might also want crayons or a Sharpie if there's parts of your drawing that you don't want to get messed up with the water effect. So go ahead and gather your supplies. Again, the markers, of course the paper, something underneath, and the water and something to paint with is the most important. Gather those things and let's get started. All right, so the first thing you want to do is get your space all set up. So I have my messy paper here that's bigger than my paper I'm gonna paint on, so I can get outside the paper a little bit and it won't get on the table. My water is ready, although we're not gonna use it right now. And then I have my markers all off to the side over here and my paintbrush, I'll put it right there. So what I'm gonna start with is just making my drawing like normal. You can kind of figure out how to draw the rainbow on your own without too much of my help, but if you want to do the watercolor effect, you have to do the whole thing in marker. Anything you do in crayon or color pencil, it's not going to work the same way. So I'm gonna start by using my gray, and I'm gonna make these two puffy cloud shapes with these curved lines. Now on the first one, I just colored it in all gray. But I think on this one, I'm gonna kind of color it in sort of scribbly because I wanna see how that ends up looking. It's always fun to try something new and see how it turns out. Because even if it doesn't turn out the best, then you just kind of got to learn something new, and then next time you might try something different. I'm gonna scribble some blue in my cloud too, just to see what happens with this one. Okay. And then what you want to do is choose the color you want to put at the very top of the rainbow. Now normally your rainbow has red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. However, this is your rainbow. You can make it have as many colors as you want, and they don't have to go in order. So I'm going to actually start with pink, and I'm going to start with my biggest arch first. I would start with your biggest one because if you start with a little one, it might be harder to go the other way. So I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna do a bunch of bands of different rainbow colors. I might go in rainbow order or I might not, but I'll put the rainbow order next to my drawing while I'm working so you guys can see. So take your marker and do your rainbow bands. Okay, I think I'm done with my rainbow. Now just to make my picture a little bit more fun, I'm going to add some raindrops below my clouds. So I start with a point like that and round at the bottom. And I'm gonna do purple and blue. And then I'm going to scribble some blues and purples in my sky just to make that more fun too. So I'm gonna go like this, kind of scribble side to side, and just being careful not to go over my rainbow. You don't have to do this part, but it's nice because then your sky just looks a little bit more exciting when we add the water. Okay, so I'm all done with my rainbow. I did everything in marker. So now I go on to my next step. So I have my water in this little tray here. And what I'm gonna do first is I dip my brush in the water and I'm gonna try just painting the water over the marker, and look at how it spreads out and it covers all those white spaces. So I'm gonna kind of be real careful on the edge of my rainbow and my clouds when I get there, because I don't want to just completely blur it. But it's pretty cool that you can use regular markers and water and basically turn it into watercolor paint. Around my raindrops, I'm gonna try just poking them with water. When you poke like this, give it a few minutes to see what happens, because it doesn't always change right away. It might change after a few minutes. See how this is already starting to spread out? And then I'm gonna kind of make sure my brush is cleaned off, and I'm gonna do the same thing I did on the sky in my clouds. Let's see. That does look pretty cool. Maybe next time I would do black and gray instead. And inside your rainbow, I would not just put water all over it, because it's gonna get really mixed up. But what looks pretty cool is to just take your brush and tap some water droplets on it, and give it a few minutes and wait to see what happens. Okay, I know it looks like it didn't do anything, but let's let it sit for a little while and it'll change in a few minutes. So now it's been a few minutes and you can see how it's starting to change a little bit on the outside. And as time goes on, it'll keep changing more and more. So it's pretty fun to see what happens, and if you don't love it, you can always try it again, because it's a pretty quick project. I'll show you what my first one looked like when it was all finished. So you can see how this got much, much lighter when it dried, and I think that it turned out pretty cool. So just have fun with it and keep experimenting to see how yours turns out. All right, guys, I hope you had fun making your watercolor rainbows with me today. I think it's really cool to see how they turn out, and they all turn out a little bit different. So just have fun and maybe experiment making other kinds of drawings using this technique too. But I will see you guys next time for our next drawing video. Bye!